You're listening to Murder Not Murdering with Erin,
And Autumn,
a true crime podcast about murder and murdering.
but we are not murderers.
All right, folks, welcome back to Murder Not Murdering. What are you doing? Get it together.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome back to Murder Not Murdering with Erin and the other
Autumn.
person. Autumn is here this
Me.
time.
I'm here. Oh my gosh. I have been in a baby bubble because our grandson was born.
So exciting.
And he is just so amazing. We are so happy. We could not be more in love.
I'm so excited for you.
It's been like, seriously, it's just been the best. I did not think I would be this. I mean, I knew I would be obsessed because I love babies, but I didn't realize like the level of obsession it would be for my own grandson. It's almost
Yeah.
embarrassing.
I feel like you just sit there and look at them. Oh, just stare at them.
Yes,
They could be doing nothing at all, and you're just staring
nothing.
at them.
And when I'm not with him, I'm depressed. I'm so sad thinking about when I can see him again.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. And I said last week, but big congratulations, Autumn.
Thank you, thank you. I just cannot. I will not be posting his pictures on socials. But I will say he
I
has.
get plenty, y'all.
Yes, he has so much hair. He has dark hair, and he has
Mhm.
so much of it, and he is so handsome. So I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited.
Yes. And, we don't really post a lot of pictures of kids and not on our social,
No.
but it's really exciting. And congratulations again to you and Dustin.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, it's wild.
It's wild. I don't know if any of you all are following our TikTok, but man, we've had a nice response on there from my
Yes.
mini-sode that I
Yes.
did on Venus Extravaganza. So thank you so much for listening and caring about her case because it is really important to me. And I think especially right now in the middle of Pride Month, it's very important to keep telling these stories.
I would 100% agree. And I think that the response we received on TikTok was so refreshing.
Mhm.
I was worried because sometimes, the comment section could be just really awful and negative, but
Mhm.
it was all just very supportive, and they were all hoping that she finds answers.
I mean, that's the thing though. Paris is Burning came out so long ago, and she's someone that sticks out into your mind when you watch it because you don't know she died during the filming. So you don't know when you're watching the episode. You fall in love with her. She's, you know, sweet and charming and full of life. And then while you're sitting there watching this, then you see at the end of the movie that they talk about how she had been murdered. So it's kind of shocking when it happens and it stands out. And then the TV show Pose based a character off of her. I mean, it's just, I think her story resonates with people. And I'm glad that it's getting some traction, and then hopefully that also boosts up a lot of other cases of BIPOC trans women especially, but, people in the LGBTQIA plus community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, this week we will have Autumn go first because I went first on the last one and the mini-sode. Um, but
Okay.
I'm very glad that you're doing the case that you're doing tonight. And normally, like we always say, we don't tell each other our cases, but I suggested this one for Autumn to do.
Mhm. I
So
had
I am
actually hadn't
aware of
heard
it.
much of it. She was the one that told me about it,
Yeah.
but I had never actually even heard of it until I did the research on this.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough case, and it's happened not too far from where I live, so it's definitely something
Local.
that it's local, it's stuck out a lot to a lot of people in that time, so I'm glad you're sharing it, and I am interested to hear your take and everything that you've gathered for your information, because it's going to be, like all of our cases, tough, but important to talk about.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Since you already know it, but here
That's
we go.
okay. That's okay.
You can tell yourself you're safe. You lock the doors, you check the windows, you fall asleep next to someone you love, and you believe that should be enough. But sometimes it doesn't matter how safe you try to be, because sometimes someone like Isaiah Calbu crawls through the bathroom window. This is a story about a brutal, senseless crime and the women at the heart of it. One of them didn't survive. The other refused to be silenced. It happened in July of 2009 in Seattle's South Park neighborhood, a modest little house tucked into a residential street. It belonged to Teresa Butts and her partner, Jennifer Hopper. That day, they'd done something so simple and so beautiful. They planned their wedding, a commitment ceremony, a celebration of their love. They went dress shopping, grilled steaks, watched a movie, the kind of night you share where you found your person. Teresa was the outgoing one, always singing, always smiling. Jennifer was more introspective. She brought the grounding, the calm. They balanced each other. They adored each other. That house was their home, and that night was full of joy until it wasn't. After midnight, Isaiah pried open the bathroom window and crawled inside. He didn't know Teresa or Jennifer. He had a knife, and what happened over the next 2 hours was unthinkable. He held them hostage in their own bedroom. He raped both of them. He told them he wouldn't hurt them if they listened. But he was lying. When he began cutting their throats, Teresa fought back. She kicked him off the bed. He stabbed her in the chest and arm, but she kept going. She threw a lamp through a window and hurled herself outside. Jennifer ran too, covered in blood, terrified. She screamed for help. Neighbors woke to the chaos and the sirens and the lights. Teresa collapsed outside the house. She was still conscious, just for a moment, and she told a neighbor, "He told us if we did what he told us to do, he wouldn't hurt us. He lied. He lied." Those were her last words. Jennifer survived, but the life she knew didn't. 6 days passed. Seattle was on edge. Police had nothing until a DNA hit linked the South Park attack to a burglary at Auburn City Hall. They released security footage from that burglary to the public, and someone recognized the man in the video.
Thank God.
His own mother. She called the police and said, "That's my boy. Don't shoot him." Isaiah was arrested a few days later, spotted by a bus driver in Northeast Seattle. But here's where it gets even harder to sit with. Isaiah should have already been in jail. Earlier that same month, he'd been in court for threatening to kill his own mother. He was also a suspect in a fire that killed his aunt and one of her tenants. Prosecutors asked the court to revoke his bail. The judge said no. And 6 days later, Teresa was gone. When Isaiah finally went to trial in 2011, he didn't act like someone fighting for his innocence. He arrived in a full restraint chair, arms and legs shackled. He wore a heavy green smock, and the moment the judge entered the courtroom, Isaiah looked up and shouted, "Get the fuck out of here." And I used the F word instead of saying F.
I'm proud of you for swearing, Autumn.
Thank you.
Authenticity.
Yes. It wasn't the first time he had had an explicit shout out like this. He had cursed at his lawyers, spit at one of them, knocked over chairs, screamed at the judge, and disrupted every appearance. The court made an unusual call. They banned him from attending his own trial. He could still watch from a separate room via closed-circuit TV, but unless he promised to behave, he wouldn't be allowed near the jury. And if he did come back, he'd be fitted with an electroshock sleeve, discreetly hidden under his clothing.
I've never heard of that.
I haven't either. It's actually pretty brutal. If he tried anything, a deputy could activate it.
Like a shock collar almost.
Yeah, but like a sleeve. And I don't, like under his clothing, so I'm wondering if it was like his whole body.
I have never heard of anything like that.
I know. Isn't that wild?
That is.
His defense attorneys didn't argue that he was insane. They didn't claim trauma or that he wasn't mentally competent. They just said he didn't do it. But the DNA said otherwise. Jennifer Hopper testified. The jury believed her. Isaiah was found guilty of aggravated murder, attempted murder, rape, and burglary. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Now here's where the story shifts, because this episode isn't just about violence. It's about what comes after. For a long time, Jennifer Hopper stayed anonymous. She was, in quotes, the surviving partner. But in 2011, 2 years after the attack, she made a decision. She stepped into the light. She wrote her story for The Stranger, beginning with these words. "My name is Jennifer Hopper. I am not afraid. I am not ashamed. I am still here." She said she came forward to honor Teresa, to say her name, to give herself back her voice, to show that healing is possible without pretending that the pain ever fully goes away. In the years since, Jennifer has spoken about everything from trauma to music to forgiveness. She talked about how singing, something she shared with Teresa, helped her begin to feel again. Something about what it takes to sing a song, she told KUOW, or to make sound. It's calming, allows me to feel more centered and connected. She went on to sing with Angel Band Project, a group using music to support survivors of sexual violence. And maybe most powerful of all, Jennifer spoke about forgiveness. She said she began to ask bigger questions, not just why me, but why him? I was struck by his humanity, she said. I became way more interested in the question of the humanity of violence and less rageful towards him. That doesn't mean she excused it or forgot. It means she chose not to live in hate. There's a quiet strength in everything Jennifer says. And there's a legacy in Teresa's final act, fighting back, saving the woman she loved. What happened in South Park was horrifying, but it didn't erase their love. It didn't destroy Jennifer. It didn't silence Teresa. Jennifer's voice and Teresa's memory are louder now than Isaiah will ever be. So let's end with a quote Jennifer gave the world. Oh my God, I can't. Hold on.
I know.
So
It's
sad.
so hard.
So let's end with the quote. Oh, okay.
It's okay. You've got this.
Let's end with the quote Jennifer gave the world in 2011. My name is Jennifer Hopper. I am not afraid. I am not ashamed. I am still here. And I will still be here long after Isaiah is sentenced. Dude, that was really hard.
I
That was
know.
such a sad one. I just couldn't.
I know.
It was just awful. My sources were PBS, the Washington State Courts.gov, a podcast Beyond the Rainbow, Outsmart, KUOW, the Seattle Times, and NBC.com.
I know it was a hard one. It's a really tough one to go through, and I feel like it struck Seattle so hard when it happened, and I remember when the sentencing happened. It also came back up for me when I was reading Broken Horses by Brandi Carlile, who's a Seattle legend, singer, songwriter. And she talked about it in her book, saying that she, especially being that they were a lesbian couple and singers, she had a need to want to meet her. So they've met and even sang together. And there's something beautiful about that as well, and healing. And I love that. Sorry, this is an emotional one. Goodness.
Yeah, I know it really was.
I love that that's what she did, right? She kept singing, and she's still here. And, there's so much power in helping others too with her story and just continuing to go on, because that's hard enough in itself, especially as a sexual assault survivor myself. I know how hard that can be. And you do feel alone or invisible. And I'm so glad that she's felt comfortable sharing her story. Yeah. Well, we're going to jump into my case since we're already sad and melancholy.
Since we are already sad.
And my case this week does not have anything to do with murder. So
weird, but okay.
No murder, but it is about scandal. And we are sticking with telling cases, LGBT cases that I think are important right now. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Just one second. Ugh, you got me, Autumn.
I know, it's awful.
Okay.
I held it together until the very last part.
I know. I don't know how you did it. Okay. My case is the 1920 Harvard Secret Court. In the spring, yeah. I'd never heard of this.
I have never heard of this either, I don't think.
When I was doing my research, I learned a lot. So here we go. In the spring of 1920, Harvard University, one of the most prestigious and powerful academic institutions in the United States, launched a secret tribunal. There was no trial, no transparency, no due process, only silence and expulsion. This wasn't about cheating or violence. This was a purge, a secret war against a small group of young men because of their sexuality. This is the story of the 1920 Harvard Secret Court and how it remained hidden for more than 80 years. It's May 1920. A Harvard student named Cyril Wilcox is found dead in his home in Fall River, Massachusetts. He has taken his own life using gas asphyxiation. At first, it's treated like a private tragedy, perhaps due to the increasing academic pressures from his college exams. But then, his family finds letters suggesting that Cyril had been involved in what the era called a homosexual circle at Harvard. Those letters named names, friends, roommates, and a dormitory proctor. To the Wilcox family, this was scandalous. To Harvard's administration, this was a threat. They wanted them gone, quietly, completely. So they created a tribunal, 5 men, all Harvard administrators, with one mission: investigate, identify, expel. They called it the secret court, and over the next 2 months, it would upend the lives of at least 14 young men. It escalated when the acting dean of the college, Chester N. Greenough, received an anonymous letter from a student. It was unsigned and dated May 26th from someone who identified himself as only a member of the class of 1921. The anonymous student knew all the details of Cyril Wilcox's suicide and informed the acting dean how Cyril first got involved with the underground gay group. It was very detailed and spoke of unnatural acts and named all of the students involved. They spoke of parties that involved cross-dressing and alcohol. He called the participants notorious young male degenerates. The anonymous student also identified Kenneth Day, Edward Say, Harold Saxton, and Eugene Cummings by name as the students who attended the parties in Ernest Roberts' room, where he wrote, "The most disgusting and disgraceful and revolting acts of degeneracy and depravity took place openly in plain view of all who were present. Isn't it about time to put an end to this sort of thing in college? If you look into the above, you will find the charges based on facts." And just quickly, I think that by them saying it was openly in plain view of all present, this person was present.
Okay.
The court worked fast. It summoned students with little to no explanation. Some students were pulled out of class. Others were questioned late at night. The students were asked about their sexual histories, their friendships, and even their bodies. They were accused of acts that most of them had never publicly acknowledged. They wanted to know how often they would masturbate and who they had relations with. In their notes, they would refer to these students and say if their mind was poisoned or not. They would write down guilty or not guilty. One of the young men, Ernest Weeks, was a dorm proctor, which is someone who is a faculty member that lives with students responsible for overseeing the resident hall or a specific group. Another, Joseph Lombard, would later become a federal judge. Some were forced to implicate others under pressure, humiliation, and fear. In total, 8 students were expelled. Eugene Cummings died by suicide not long after, and another committed suicide in 1930. The court handed down a recorded verdict of guilty for a total of 14 men, 7 college students, Cummings the dental student, Clark, an assistant in philosophy, Saxton, who was a Harvard alumni, and 4 men who were not connected with Harvard at all. The college students were asked to leave campus, but they were told not just that. They needed to leave Cambridge completely and immediately. Your son, Ernest, is still in Cambridge in spite of our instruction, Greenough wrote U.S. Representative Robert Ernest's father on June 12th. I strongly urge you to send for him or come for him yourself at once. He has been ordered to leave Cambridge today. Consequences of disobedience in this order would be most serious. Greenough also sent a letter that week, a letter that would haunt students for the rest of their lives. He sent this to the Alumni Placement Service, and it said, "Before making any statement that would indicate confidence in the following men, please consult someone in the dean's office. If they do not know what it's meant, tell them to look in the disciplinary file in an envelope marked Roberts, E.W., and others." Others were denied re-entry into the university, or they had their degrees quietly revoked. Harvard contacted deans at the other schools and blocked, expelled, and dismissed students' applications. They contacted deans at Brown University, Amherst College, University of Virginia, and that's just naming a few. Harvard even contacted some of the employers of former students. one of which was Harold W. Saxton, who had trouble getting a job as a teacher after his appearance before the court. When he applied for a teaching position at Halleck School in Great Barrington, Massachusetts in 1922, Dean Gay advised the school not to hire him. In the spring of 1920, Saxton became involved with certain undergraduates in offenses of such moral turpitude that the undergraduates were removed from the university immediately. Saxton, of course, was beyond our reach, but it is regarded as highly undesirable that he should be recommended for any position, especially that of teaching boys in school. Later that year, Saxton applied for a position at the Massachusetts Department of Education. Dean Gay wrote them also. He said, "It is impossible for us to recommend Harold Saxton for any position whatsoever. It's my personal opinion that he should never be appointed as a teacher." Lives were destroyed, and not because of criminal acts, but because of identity, and all of it was kept secret. There's no public records. The tribunal's existence was hidden in university archives in a folder simply labeled Secret Court 1920. And under the assumption that they eradicated the problem, Harvard moved on. For more than 80 years, the men affected were forgotten. Then came 2002. A student journalist at the Harvard Crimson, Amit Pally, uncovered references to something odd in the archives. With digging, persistence, a lot of resistance, he found the truth, the files, the names, the tribunal. There were 500 pages of documents.
Oh my God.
Then he published a bombshell story, and for the first time, the world learned of the secret court. Harvard had run a covert operation to expel gay students, and they'd tried to erase it from history. Members of the secret court considered themselves to be defenders of morality at the university, and they felt the very existence of people who were gay, and even those who knew of homosexuality at the university, were some kind of force that would taint other students. This is a quote from Amit Pally. He also said, "I think they considered it to be some sort of contagious disease." The reaction was swift. LGBTQIA groups, students, and alumni demanded answers. Upsettingly, initially, Harvard stayed quiet. But eventually, the then president, Larry Summers, issued a statement. He expressed deep regret, and yet regret is not the same as accountability. The expelled students weren't honored. Their degrees weren't restored. No reparations, no public ceremony, just institutional shame. One of the expelled men, Joseph Lombard, who I mentioned earlier, had returned to Harvard years later. He graduated, and he went on to become a respected federal judge. But most of them didn't get that chance, and their names still lived in the shadows. Why does this matter now? Because the secret court wasn't just a mistake. It was a deliberate, systematic act of discrimination, an attempt by one of the most powerful institutions in the world to define who belonged and who didn't. And because queer people have always been here, at Harvard, in dorm rooms, in classrooms, in love, in fear, in silence, the court's actions weren't just administrative, they were deeply personal. And they remind us of something we must never forget. Power often cloaks itself in respectability, but it can be just as cruel as any mob, especially when its goal is to erase difference. Today, Harvard has an LGBTQIA+ center, pride flags, gender-inclusive housing. But visibility doesn't erase the history. We still live in a world where queer and trans youth face hostility, violence, and institutional exclusion, where laws are passed to erase identities, censor education, and criminalize care. Remembering the secret court isn't about mourning the past, it's about learning from it and building a future where this never happens again. Because silence is where injustice hides. And as long as we speak, it can't stay hidden. Amit Pali, who originally broke the story, later served as president of the Crimson and is now the CEO of the Trevor Project, a suicide prevention and crisis intervention service for queer youth. On the 100-year anniversary of the secret court and the men that they discriminated against, Amit told the Harvard Gazette, "It's an attack on their dignity. It's an attack on their memory, their lives, to not have the truth of who they were be told." If this episode moves you, consider sharing it. Learn more about the secret court. Tell someone about it. And remember that the past isn't dead. It's a mirror showing us who we've been and who we're still becoming. Until next time, take care of each other and don't be afraid to dig up the truth. My sources were the Harvard University Archives, the Harvard Crimson, PBS, the History Project, the Harvard Gazette, and Wikipedia.
That was very interesting. I did not have any idea that something like that existed.
I did not either. I mean, I was shocked to find this when I was looking up cases to do. You know, I wanted to stick to my kind of old time crimes, and there was several that I've thought about doing, but I wanted something different, and I found this, and I was shocked. I really had never heard of this, and that they had like created this whole tribunal of these men to just terrorize these people, and not just while they were in school, not after they were expelled. They went after the rest of their lives. In 1943, they someone actually wrote that worked for Harvard in a note that said, "It's time to stop following what they're doing right now. We need to let them go." And it was like, wait a minute, are you telling me that from that amount of time, for nearly 25 years, they were sitting there still finding out where they were and what they were doing? I mean, they went to people's employers. They went to the other colleges and said, don't accept them as a new student. I mean, they really went after their whole lives. And that's just shocking. And 3 of the people involved in all of this committed suicide. You know, it's just having to hide yourself or hide a part of you is so stifling that you feel like you are not living. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, especially worse, you know, back then. But it's still, there's still small towns, there are still big towns, there are still big colleges, there are still groups of people, and especially now when they feel so emboldened. So I think it's just important to bring these things up and to look at that aspect of the history of it, because that is just shocking that 14 people's lives were changed because they went to a party and hung out with their friends at college. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I truly believe that it had to have been someone who was in their friend group that did that, that started the whole thing. Because letters showed up at the parents' house, and then the anonymous letter came, and you know, they do suspect one specific person, but and I didn't have confirmation of that, so I don't share it in the case. But you know, it's just kind of wild. And it's almost even more shocking that they actually went after a US representative's child as well,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not, you know, usually they sweep those things under the rug and keep them hidden. I mean, I think we're all well aware that colleges have taken a lot of donations to cover up a lot of things. But we have letters, and we can see the letters, the correspondence that they had with the US senator as well, our US representative as well. So it's all documented, it's all there. There was 500 pieces in that. So there was plenty of research done for that, and then they just put it away on a shelf and moved on. It's just
That's just
crazy.
so sad.
It is, and it's I know that normally we do murder cases, but this is also a true crime, so, um, we're just trying to stick with that, and we will be back next week with more cases, but also make sure to check out our TikTok, which is blowing up. Uh,
Honestly, we have over 20,000 views on the Venus.
yeah, which is big for us.
Really big for us.
But do check it out at mnm.pod on TikTok, and then at Murder Not Murdering on Instagram, where we do post pictures. So you get to
Yes.
kind of see the people that are involved and see a little bit about them, and get to know a few more facts. So if you're so interested, do that. If you have any ideas of cases that you would like us to cover, please slide into our DMs. And we will be back again, like I said, next week. New episodes are always out on Mondays, and we will see you soon. Bye.